If you aren't already playing Reverse 1999 now, here are 3 reasons to begin immediately. First and foremost, we still got plenty of time for Tooth Fairy. And if you need any convincing as to why this character is so crazy, just listen to this. Tooth Fairy can cleanse debuffs from your team. She can increase your crit rate, your crit damage. She increases healing done by 10%. And consequently, when you put all these things together, she's the most consistent healer in the game. Next, we have the upcoming Golden Threads event, which is absolutely ridiculous based on what we know. Because of its timing, however, there are some concerns about whether it's more worth it to spend on that banner as opposed to Jessica's, but I'll do you one better. Imagine this new scenario. You're a new player, you're trying to reroll for the perfect account, and boom! Instead, you end up getting Jessica, and you're also able to roll for Sotheby from the first Golden Threads banner, making the ultimate poison team. Now that doesn't mean too much to you, so watch this. And if this wasn't enough, we're currently in the middle of a login event that gives you a load of resources. Not joking. Now I know what you're probably asking yourself at this point is, well, Connor, does any of this even matter? Well, yes, it absolutely does. See, let me break it down for you real quick. As I mentioned before, this Golden Threads event has mixed reception and value, but think about this for a moment. A banner that has a reduced pity count that allows you to pull the initial characters that you may or may not have missed out on if you weren't playing from day one. I literally cannot think of a game off the top of my head that I've played maybe within like the past 6 months that have done something like this. Typical gacha games make you wait months and months and months, and you aren't even sure if they're gonna come back. But if they do end up coming back, you only have the chance to pull for a single one of the OG characters, not usually all of them at the same time. Now let me be clear, this is a really good event for casual players that want to get back into the game and they were kind of upset initially, or they may have stopped playing because they missed a character. But this is also extremely helpful for players that are thinking of returning back to the game or min-maxing their pulls to get a good character that they may not have otherwise been able to get for a cheaper cost. For instance, if you really wanted a great support, you could definitely invest in someone like An Lee from the first Golden Thread banner, and if you needed a second healer, you could have definitely taken Medicine Pocket from the second thread list. But at the exact same time, Centurion is also kind of not a slouch either, although I do understand that, like, technically speaking, she's kind of getting overshadowed or like matched by Melania. But of course, guys, if you really want to min-max your experience, you could literally just get A Knight from the third banner as a decent DPS. The opportunities are literally endless. Of course, despite all these great potential paths for you to take, there are some things that I do want to caution you to. First and foremost, using the Golden Threads as a way to get additional copies of portraits is not really that worthwhile. Most of the characters that you have access to have kind of questionable first portraits or just portraits in general when it comes to value. And I mean, seriously guys, compare this character's portraits to Melania's portraits. These are just not comparable. Essentially, this is a secondary banner that pops during Jessica's banner in order to kind of do 3 things. The first, very typical as per any company, is to bait you to spend money. The second is to entice players that were originally gone or that haven't played because they missed a character to revisit. And the third and final reason that they decided to place this banner so close to Jessica's is that you do end up having the ability to have Sotheby as a pullable character. And if you pull Sotheby alongside Jessica, now why specifically those 3 reasons? Let's think about it for a sec. The first one is pretty obvious, of course. Any business needs to make money, so timing this event near New Year's and the holidays just makes sense from a profit standpoint. And if you really needed any more proof, look no further than Now in regard to the returning players portion, this is also pretty straightforward. Most games do not retain their initial popularity in full, of course, but there are certainly ways to reel in this lost player base that they would have otherwise never had access to ever again. And as you might expect, giving people an easier, more alluring way to pull for the characters that they were originally interested in. I mean, if they were pulled in one time, maybe they'll get pulled in another time. So sure, why not? Introduce an event like this. Granted, this likely isn't as insane for profit as something like releasing a new character, but giving players the option to relive the initial period of hype, that is a pretty priceless gift to players, no matter which way you look at it. Now as for the final reason as to why it would probably make sense for them to release something like this right now, people are trying to make compositions work. And ultimately, there are only a few things more funny than watching someone lose a 50-50 on banner when you won the 50-50 on banner. and that's making a funny composition that does an insane amount of damage and is also very, very meta. People enjoy seeing things explode. People like being rewarded for being creative and making new compositions all the time. So when you're able to come up with something like a poison meta comp or a composition that uses only poison, you have people that enjoy playing themes like that. So if you dangle in front of someone's face, hey, you can make the best poison composition instead of just, hey, you can play a character that has poison, it's going to feel much more attractive, or it's going to be much more appealing to players that just really, really want to play with this certain character. I digress though. Let's get back into it. Now, the actual mechanic of the golden thread, from what we know, is that there's a bit of a random chance for which golden thread banner you have access to, or what you can, fight, or etc. The actual mechanic of the golden thread, from what we know, however, is that there's just a random chance for players to get any of 3 banners and then be able to pick one character that you could pity from it. And therefore, you technically do have the ability to choose which one you want to pull for. It's not completely random. But to be clear, I personally am not a huge fan of this kind of thinking, because you obviously do get access to older characters, but the way that you get access to these characters is really muddied and kind of fogged. That being said though, we will have access to a lot of characters that either skip the banner or need to come back sometime in the future, so I'm always happy about stuff like that. Anyways guys, if the login event, the potential god reroll account setup, or Tooth Fairy herself is not enough, maybe it's worth it just to come back, because it's one of the only games that are generous to free-to-plays and also kind of understand that they want to respect their time, and therefore they gave us stuff like immediate skipping the story, 2x mode, this auto battling that they've now introduced, I guess, like semi-recently. But yeah guys, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, comment, turn on the notification bell, subscribe. Let me know what you think about Reverse 1999 right now. Let me know what you think about all the random banners and stuff, or the events that have been announced and are released. As always guys, make sure to check out the rest of my socials, my different platforms. I stream fairly regularly now on Twitch and YouTube at the same time. Hope you guys had a great rest of your evenings. Happy holidays. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Adios.